Jai Om Vishnu Pawad, Paramahamsa, Pradikaradacharya, Shratta Shratta Shishiman, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Vasudevaya.
All right, day reading from Canto 3, Chapter 6, text number 5. Before we get into that, I'll just read a little bit about two of Lord Chaitanya's associates, because they're, let me see here exactly, but their disappearances were yesterday. So I'll just read through that real quick. So first, just read a little bit here about, is it I think Maheshwar Pandit? Yeah, Mahesh Pandit, sorry. So, let's see here. So Mahesh Pandita Sriman Mahabhur Vajay Shakha. So this is from the Gaura Gunadesh Deepika. In Raja, Mahesh Pandit was Krishna's cowherd friend, Mahabahu. So Mahesh Pandit was one of the Dwadwasa Gopals, or 12 cowherd boys. His home Shripat was first situated in Mashipur, across the river from Jirat on the eastern bank of the Ganges. When Mashipur fell into the river, the Shripat was moved to Beladunga near Shukasagar. Here too, the banks of the Ganges fell into the river, causing the destruction of the village. Once again, Shripat was moved, this time to the present location in Palpara, near Chakdaha. This last move took place in the Bengali year 1334 or 1927 AD. Palpara is situated within the Panchnagar administrative block. Srila Bhakti Sanatana Saraswati Goswami Thakur mentions in his commentary to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela chapter 10, text 32, that this final resting place for Mahesh Pandit Shripat is in Kantalpur, Puli. Mahesh Pandit is also considered to be a branch of both Nityananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Some people say that he was the youngest brother of Jagadish Pandit, whose Shripat is also by Jashar. According to this opinion, there were 3 brothers in the family, Jagadish, Haranya, and Mahesh. Mahesh Pandit Shripat is a small construction in the style of an ordinary residential building. It houses Gauranityananda deities, as well as Sri Gopinath, Madan Mohan, Radha Govinda, and Shalagram Shila. In front of the temple building is a memorial to Mahesh Pandit, his Pushpa Samadhi. Sri Mahesh Pandit participated in the Chiradahi Mahotsav, the chip rice festival, in Panihati, after which he followed Nityananda Prabhu to Saptagram. He was present in Kadara when Narottam Das Thakur came there to pay a visit. Mahesh Pandit, like all of Nityananda Prabhu's associates, resembled him in being extremely magnanimous and devoted to the salvation of all the fallen living beings. In his ecstasies of devotional love, he would dance madly. Mahesh Pandit was a magnanimous cowherd boy. In his love for Krishna, he would dance to the sounds of kettle drums like a madman. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 11, text 32. His name is also mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Vrindavan Das Thakur calls him a great soul, Paramamahanta. Chaitanya Bhagavat, I don't know exactly, it just says 3.6. I don't know where that is. His disappearance day is celebrated on the 13th day of the dark moon, Krishna Trayodasi in Paush. And then so read a little bit here about Udaran Das Thakur. So there's a lot here. I'm not going to read all of it. I'll just read part of it. I'll just read a couple paragraphs. So Udaran Datta Thakur is one of the 12 Gopals. In order to assist Nityananda Prabhu in his incarnation, he took birth in the town of Saptagram in the year 1481. Saptagram is in the Hooghly district near the Trishbinga railroad station. His parents were named Shrikara and Bhadravati. They belonged to the gold merchant class. Any caste in which a Vaishnava appears is to be considered holy. The earth itself is blessed by the appearance of a Vaishnava, and his or her mother has achieved the perfection of motherhood. And then let's skip a little bit here. So, as one of Nityananda's closest confidants, Udaran Datta Thakur is called Parama Patita Pavana, the deliverer of the most fallen amongst the most fallen. Thus, any jiva who takes shelter of Udaran Datta Thakur is quickly delivered from his material entanglements and attains the service of Nityananda Prabhu and Gauranga Prabhu's lotus feet. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes him as the best of the Mahabhagavatas. And Vrindavan Das Thakur writes in his Chaitanya Bhagavat, Udaran Datta is a great and magnanimous Vaishnav who has a title of the service of Nityananda Prabhu. From a superficial point of view, Udaran Datta worked as a manager of the big zamindar, Nairaj of Naihati, about 1.5 miles north of Katwa. The relics of his wealthy family are still visible not far from the Dane Hut station. The village where Udaran Datta Thakur lived while acting as the manager of the estate was named Udaranpur. Let's see here. I'll read 2 more paragraphs. Though he possessed a vast fortune, Udaran Datta renounced all sense gratifications, dedicating his sense activities to the service of Nityananda Prabhu. Being controlled by the love of his devotee, Nityananda Prabhu enjoyed the foodstuffs that Udaran had cooked. The Lord grabs offerings given by his devotees. That which is given by a non-devotee is of no interest to him. End quote. Saptagram stands on the bank of the Saraswati River at Udaran Datta Shripat. One can still see a 6-armed figure of Mahaprabhu that he personally worshipped. On the right side of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a deity of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. On another altar are the figures of Radha Govinda and Ashalagram Srila, and below the throne is a picture of Sri Udaran Datta Thakur. After Udaran Datta disappeared, Janavadevi made an auspicious visit to his home. So I'll stop there. There's just a little bit more, but that kind of sums it up. So, Jai. So Udaran Datta Thakur ki, Shri Mahesh Pandit ki Jai. Okay. We can start on the Bhagavatam. Let's see, okay. So, Parina, Vishata, Swasmin, Matraya, Vishva, Shrik, Ganaha, Chukshobha, Anyoyam, Asadya, Yasmin, Lokaha, Chara, Acharaha. Okay. Parnina Vishvata Swasmin, Matraya Vishvashriganaha, Chukshobhanyoyam Asadya, Yasmin Lokash Chara Charaha, Parina Vishata Swasmin, Matraya Vishvashriganaha, Chukshobhanyam Yonyam Asadya, Yasmin Lokash Chara Charaha, Parina Vishata Swasmin, Matraya Vishvashinganaha Chukshobhanyam Chukshobhanyonyam Ashadya Yasmin Lokash Chara Charaha. Okay. All right, Mataji's. Chukshobhayoyam Ashadya Yasmin Lokaschara Chara Parina Vishatha Swasmin Matraya Vishvashinganaha Chukshobhayoyam Ashadya Word for word. Parena, by the Lord. Vishata, thus entering. Swasmin, by his own self. Matraya, by a plenary portion. Vishvashrik, by the elements of the universal creation. Ganaha, all. Chukshobha, transformed. Anyonyam, one another. Asadya, having obtained. Yasmin, in which. Lokaha, planets. Charaha, movable and immovable. Okay, translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. As the Lord in His plenary portion entered into the elements of the universal creation, they transformed into the gigantic form in which all the plenary systems and all movable and immovable creations rest. The elements of the cosmic creation are all matter and have no potency to increase in volume unless entered into by the Lord in His plenary portion. This means not increase or decrease unless it is spiritually touched. Matter is a product of spirit and increases only by the touch of spirit. The entire cosmic manifestation has not assumed its gigantic form by itself, as wrongly calculated by less intelligent persons. As long as spirit is within matter, matter can increase as needed. But without the spirit, matter stops increasing. For example, as long as there is spiritual consciousness within the material body of a living entity, the body increases to the required size. But a dead material body, which has no spiritual consciousness, stops increasing. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, importance is given to the spiritual consciousness, not the body. The entire cosmic body increased by the same process that we experience in our smaller bodies. One should not, however, foolishly think that the individual infinitesimal soul is the cause of the gigantic manifestation of the universal form. The universal form is called Virat Rupa because the Supreme Lord is within it in His plenary portion. Om Gana Timanandasya Gananjanjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutare Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Viswapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shukta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishtamam Sha Shri Rupam Sagratam Sahagana Raganavtamitam Tam Shajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishnapadan Sahagana Naritam Shri Vishakam Itam Sha Nama Om Vishnu Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shimante Bhakti Vikas Samaniti Namane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vande Shri Krishna Vande Shri Ready. Parena Vishata Swasmin Matraya Vishvashinganaha Chukshobhanyam Yonyam Ashadya Yasmin Lokas Characharaha. As the Lord in his plenary portion entered into the elements of the universal creation, they transformed into the gigantic form in which all the plenary systems, all movable and immovable creations rest. So this title of this chapter is called Creation of the Universal Form. And so that's what's going on. And as previously, we've discussed this at some length in different parts of the Bhagavatam, and it comes up regularly. And also, those statements come up regularly in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's something which may be questionable if we'll be able to understand it in its entirety in this life, because it's not a very simple subject matter at all, actually. And neither is it really something that that is. Oh, thank you. Neither is it really something also that, in the sense that it's not something in the sense that we need to understand A to Z intellectually. Also, that we have to be able to understand this completely, all these different things. Because the thing is that it's probably, I would say, it's safe to say, for most living entities in the creation, very difficult to completely understand how exactly the Krishna, by his different energies, is creating the material world and empowering living entities to do that, and how all those things are going about. For instance, we see in this world that someone creates something and they focus their attention and they create one thing. But it's not that one person is simultaneously creating different things at the same exact time. Like if someone, for instance, people get together and then like I'm sure right now, in Silicon Valley, they're working on or coming together with iPhone 17 and maybe thinking about things for 18. So they were working on like one particular project, but it's not like they're simultaneously working on, what is this, like 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and all those different things. So Krishna, by his unlimited potencies, he's able to manifest unlimited universes, and then while those different universes are going on, he's able to enter into those universes and help engineer them and empower living entities accordingly. It is unfathomable. And that's one of Krishna's qualities that's mentioned in the nectar of devotion, that unlimited universes come from the pores of his skin. And then he enters into them as, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and also Shirodakashayi Vishnu. The Purusha avatars. So how is it possible to understand all those different things? It's pretty difficult. But Krishna can empower living entities to understand those things. And the main thing is that this knowledge is revealed. It's not some intellectual feat. I was listening recently to the classes that Bhakti Vikas Maharaj gave when he was here, I think in 2022, just about scholarship and Vaishnavism and like that. And he was stressing that point that that by studying Shastra and memorizing it and all these different things, it's not necessarily true that we'll be able to understand the subject matter or that we'll become great devotees just by understanding all those different things. He's making the point that we have to render devotional service and be pure in that intent, and be careful of the weeds of Krishna consciousness and be humble and such and such, things like that. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is describing these things in order to convince us that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's great, we're infinitesimal, and we can serve him. Srila Prabhupada brings out this point in the purport, saying that one should not, however, foolishly think that the individual infinitesimal soul is the cause of the gigantic manifestation of the universal form. So that's an important point. I wasn't going to talk so much about that in the class, but it's all these things are, there's so many different things. When Krishna explains something or does something, there's so many different levels to it. It's not just like exactly just like one thing. It's multi-layered. So we can understand also that another layer of this is to convince the readers and the hearers who are hearing these descriptions that, well, actually, you're not God. You're not the universal form. And Krishna also showed that, made that point in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that Prabhupada, I think, makes a point in the purports, that the Krishna displayed his universal form, so in the future, people will Krishna, and then show me universal form. And then their response is, well, in a little bit. I remember hearing one time, one devotee was telling me that there was one bogus incarnation, and he went to, he was in Dallas, and anyways, he was going to perform or Texas or something, but anyways, he got a big stadium, and he was going to perform Rasa Leela or something like that. Some bogus incarnation. But then we see these people, they imitate Krishna, try to do Rasa Leela, but then they don't lift Govardhan Hill, nor can they display the universal form. So Krishna does all those things. Well, simultaneously, Krishna showed his universal form in chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita, we understand that the conclusion of that is that Arjuna wanted to see Krishna's personal form. And then Krishna showed his four-hand form, then he showed his two-hand form. So the Acharyas mentioned that the two-handed form is actually higher than the four-handed form. It's more intimate. And so that's also demonstrated that the universal form is great and amazing, this Virat Rupa. But the personal form of Krishna, which is the source of that, is higher and more relatable and more pleasing for the devotees. So there's different levels of that. So Srila Prabhupada makes some interesting points in this purport, and we'll kind of skim through them a little bit because Sunday is shorter. But he starts off with opening this, saying that the elements of cosmic creation are all matter. And so that's something that we agree with the scientists, that we can say that, yeah, we agree, and they agree that the elements are material, they're matter. And then we also agree, Prabhupada makes the point in here, that matter can increase. So scientists also, they agree with that, matter can increase. And they have their laws and things like that by which they understand, and also their scientific experiments. And then Prabhupada makes the point here that, what does he say exactly? But he kind of makes the point, he says the cosmic manifestation, that it has form. So they also agree with that there's some form to the cosmos. And there may be different opinions amongst different individuals, but I think some of those things we'll generally understand or accept. But the thing is that, of course, we don't know, there's a big underlying difference of the cause of that which we disagree with, and which is being discussed here in Srimad Bhagavatam, that the cause is spiritual, whereas the scientists maintain the view that the cause is material. And there's different theories given for that, such as the Big Bang and such things, which is mentioned here. That, anyways, the point is that by this Krishna entering, or the spiritual touch, the matter increases. Prabhupada starts that up in this first sentence, that matter has no potency to increase in volume unless entered into by the Lord and his plenary portion. So that's important, and Prabhupada cites that in a small way, but he mentions the body by citing, and there's very many verses in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita which describe the nature of the spirit soul who is situated within the body. And these are basic points, but they're super important points, actually. And we may not realize how important they are until we're put in a situation to where actually we have to act on it. So Prabhupada makes that point, and it's simple to understand, But we see that the body, that, a child is born, and then after 10, 20 years, then the body grows and keeps growing and growing, and then it reaches a point where it kind of like ceases growing height-wise, but then all these other different things keep coming out of it and things like that, and then that body may reproduce. So that's due to the spirit soul inside of the body. It's not due to, I don't really know what science says exactly. Does anybody know? Why is the body growing according to science? Hormones. Okay. The brain. So they may say different things. I forget exactly also. But then they, like that. We need some scientists here to study that. Anyways. So then they have their theories about why exactly the body is growing and stuff like that, and whatever, hormones, and, these certain things are released at this age, and then that causes, puberty, and then those changes happen, and then at this age this stops growing, and then they have their different ideas, which there may be some truth to that, but the original cause of that is the touch of the spirit soul, and similarly with the cosmic manifestation. It's mentioned here that the cosmic manifestation was exactly how Prabhupada says it, but there was some touch, and so it was increasing. And so there's some growth there in the cosmic manifestation. So there's some change and things like that. Some things are being set into motion. And so that's caused by a spiritual touch. It's not like, whatever they say, like the Big Bang, but then what caused the Big Bang? Anyways, we don't accept the Big Bang, but the point is that there's some cause there to that. And so anyways, we see so many descriptions that, Krishna interacted with material energy and set things into motion. And so anyways, we'll talk about that in many classes to come. So the main thing is that this view that we have, or I wouldn't say view, but our understanding, proper understanding that we have of the creation of the cosmos, and also just the principle of spirit, of Parashakti, in relation to this dull spirit, of like that, of just no interaction of Krishna or his energies, splinters us off from the mainstream view of scientism, which I'll read one quote here from some PhD fellow, which he gives a definition of scientism. And so his definition is, scientism is the idea that all forms of intellectual inquiry must conform to the model or models of science in order to be rational. So the view of science is that that all things they have to, in order to be claimed, real or fathomable or accepted or whatever, rational. It has to make sense, rationally. It has to be something that's understandable. And then what is that? That understanding is based on sense perception, right? That if I can see it, if I can touch it, if I can feel it, then it's and then if I can replicate that experiment, then that is logical, that's rational, and then that's accepted. Whereas, and that's their view of reality, but obviously we don't accept that. And that's the point that Krishna's not exactly establishing, but he's making the point in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that the spirit soul is not something that you can, like saying that is whatever, it can be moistened by water, it can be burned, cut to pieces. It's not it's something that's outside the purview of so-called sense perception. It's out. You can't. It's like you can go and grab the spirit soul and bring it here and then like put it under your microscope. You can't do that. So according to science, with their parameters that they've set, they'll never be able to accept the nature of the spirit soul, just because it's from what the system of philosophy that they've created, their belief, their religion. There's no room for that. It's outside. They can't accept that because then that's a non-material cause. It's non-material, and the whole thing of science is to observe material. And so we see that Srila Prabhupada in his Easy Journey to Other Planets, he speaks of an antimatter particle, that it's the opposite of matter. And he kind of explains different quotes. They're interesting. He translates certain quotes from Bhagavad Gita with that light, that's anti-matter particle. So it's the opposite of matter, which is interesting. Bridge preaching. And so, but they won't accept that. And so for us, we do accept that. So anyways, there's a clash there. And let's see what we're doing on time. And so that's the splinter off there. And we see also, which is important, that even though that view is established, so they won't accept the spirit soul, and also we don't accept a lot of this nonsense stuff anyways. And then we see that too, just to give another example of an idea, that the whole basis of the argument or the basis of understanding is rejected because scientists, they don't accept the spiritual cause or spirit at all. And also similarly with Buddhism, right off the bat, they reject the Vedas. And so we see here when Lord Chaitanya went to argue with the Buddhist, he did so based on logic. And I'll just read a little bit there from that. But the point is that when Lord Chaitanya was arguing with the Buddhist, so anyways, Lord Chaitanya, of course, is following the Srimad Bhagavatam. So how do you establish the Srimad Bhagavatam? The people that right off the bat, they don't even accept it. You know, that Krishna Supreme Personality got it. Ete Chasha Kala Pumsaj Krishna Stu Bhagavam Swayam. And then they'll say, well, I don't accept the Vedas. So they reject it. And so how do you argue with such people? So Srila Prabhupada makes an interesting point in his purport, which we'll just read from some of that. And so this is from, you don't have to pull it up, but it's from the Madhya Lila, chapter 9, text 49. So I'll just read here. So I'll just read a little bit from the beginning. So, no one can attain the absolute truth by argument. One may be very expert in logic, and another person may be even more expert in the art of argument. Because there is so much word jugglery in logic, one can never come to the real conclusion about the absolute truth by argument. The followers of the Vedic principles understand this. However, it is seen here that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated the Buddhist philosophy by argument. Those who are preachers in ISKCON will certainly meet many people who believe in intellectual arguments. Most of these people do not believe in the authority of the Vedas. Nevertheless, they accept intellectual speculation and argument. Therefore, the preachers of Krishna consciousness should be prepared to defeat others by argument, just as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. In this verse, it is clearly said, Tarke Kandita Prabhu. Lord Chaitanya put forward such a strong argument that the Buddhists could not counter him to establish their cult. So Srila Prabhupada makes a very important point here, that as preaching Krishna consciousness, that there will be very many people who believe in intellectual argument. So that may be like scientists or whatever, maybe so many different things, philosophers, historians, for instance, people they believe that will, so many different things. So that, civilization began in Mesopotamia and things like that, and then whatever. Or that, Darwin's theory that, man evolved from, monkeys and stuff, and then there's that primordial soup. So many different arguments that people may give. And there may be new things that come out also, somebody may find some bones or something and say that, these bones are dated as such and such, and this is like the missing link, and it all makes sense now, and then blah, 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 there's no God, and this, whatever. And then this, Prabhupada makes some of the points in here about, that people are saying that Srimad Bhagavatam was written by somebody named Bopadev or something, or whatever. The Bhagavatam was written after the appearance of Buddha because it mentions Buddha. So then there may be so many different things. There's unlimited different things that people will come up to in order to not accept the authority of God or the Vedas or just they have so many reasons to be atheistic. And so Prabhupada makes the point that that we have to be expert and understand that and be prepared to argue with people and defeat their arguments, just like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, because it wasn't that he just argued with the Buddhists and said, well, it says this in the Bhagavatam and you don't accept the Bhagavatam, so therefore you're nonsense. But he actually defeated their arguments. And if you look at this purport, actually, we won't go through it, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I believe it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but he cites all the different I could be wrong, but he cites all the different principles that the Buddhists accept as whatever, their truths, and he shows how each one is incorrect. So that's needed. And we also see that with Srila Prabhupada, and when he would argue with different people, and he would debate, that he was very expert in logic and reason. and wouldn't let people go on certain things. Just like, for instance, with thou shalt not kill. Before that, I wasn't really hearing that so much, but Srila Prabhupada really established that thou shalt not kill animals, and he wouldn't let that go. It was, if someone wasn't willing to accept that, it was like, okay, whatever, but he would really stay on that point, and different things like that. And we could see with speaking with different people and seeing different philosophies, usually there's kind of like that one point which is just like completely like wrong, like this one of the central points of their philosophies or their logic. And so we have to learn to just to not let go of that point. And Srila Prabhupada wouldn't, if you look at his conversations and things, he wouldn't really like let past that point that thou shalt not kill, and then they would say, oh, but that doesn't matter. But he would really make that point that does matter. And different things too with like science. And he would also give the example too that if you have, so many, but you have so many zeros, what's the value? But if you put one in front of it, it has value. So similarly, if we add Krishna, then things had value. And then also too that just like what is this? What is this? Like he would say, a civilization without like spiritual knowledge is like what is it exactly? But it's like decorations on a dead body. That was it. That there may be like so much technology, so much amazing things. The height of civilization. It's going forward so much technological innovations. But then what's the point? That people are killing the babies in the womb. They don't accept that. They think that they're material like that, and they don't inquire into the nature of spirit. So Srila Prabhupada would argue in such a way and establish things. And then we can also see if we go out and we try to spread and speak Krishna consciousness, and we cite, Srila Prabhupada said this in his purport, people probably won't accept that. So we have to learn to speak to people and to explain things to them in a logical way, but in a logical way to establish the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And just give examples of that. We see in the works of Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami also, that they systematically established some of the different points that we're making. Like with Sanatana Goswami and his Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the two divisions of that established that Golok and Vrindavan is the highest abode, and then the topmost devotees are the gopis in Vrindavan. And so that was established, step by step, with very much reference to from Shastra, and then also just showing that journey through that to get to that conclusion. And then also similarly, in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Rupa Goswami similarly it gives a description of different, the avatars of Krishna, Leela avatars, Purusha avatars, Manvan avatars, like that. And then coming to the conclusion that Krishna, Krishna is topmost. And then similarly with the devotees, Srimati Radharani is the topmost. And we see that with the nectar of instruction also, establishing in that systematic way. So for us, an important point in this purport, which is not explicitly stated, but it's there, and then it's and underneath it all and sewing it all together is the overarching principle that we have to have the vision of Shastra Chakshus. And I'll just read a couple quotes about that. But we have to see through with the eye of Shastra, how our worldview shouldn't be based off, okay, well, whatever, we're born in America, or born in Europe, or born wherever in Africa, so therefore my understanding of the world is based off of that locality. That is not correct. Because anyways, there's so many faults with that. But for instance, just in history, I don't need to get examples of particular countries, but generally in most countries, if you were born in that country and then you went to another country, that your country was topmost because you were from that other country, and then like that. And then there's so many instances in history of that, and we don't really need to get into that right now. So that's the general misconception. So this is from Nectar of Devotion. So Srila Prabhupada says, a person who acts exactly according to the tenets of Scripture is called Shastra Chakshus. Shastra Chakshus means one who sees through the eyes of authorized Scriptures. Actually, any man of knowledge and experience should see everything through these books. For example, with our naked eye, we perceive the sun globe simply as some glaring substance. But when we see through authorized books of science and other literature, we can understand how much greater the sun globe is than this earth and how powerful it is. So seeing things through the naked eye is not actually seeing. So seeing things through the authorized books or authorized teachers is the correct way to see. And Prabhupada says here that Krishna also would cite scripture and like that, in Bhagavad Gita he would mention that. So that's the correct way to see, because the thing is that so many different things are changing in society, and if we accept certain scientific views as the absolute truth, and they may change and as time goes on, and so many things like that. And anyways, there's so much things that can be said, but time is short. But science is changing, different whatever societies. Views on whatever morality and stuff like that, that is also changing. There's so many different things. If we place our faith in modern society or science, and there may be things there that we may look at and accept and speak in order to spread Krishna consciousness. But if we accept that this is like the real deal, that if we get fired up from like all this kind of stuff, then there's a problem with that. Or if we have doubts in the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam and place that, well, actually, some of these different things from modern science make more sense than some of this stuff from Bhagavatam. Then we get into this whole thing that I accept the spiritual teachings of Shastra, but the material teachings, I don't accept that. Then we're going to get screwed over. It's going to be a problem. And so we have to learn to see through the eyes of Shastra and have faith in Shastra and see with that vision. Because, for instance, if we accept the vision of modern society, then it's, for such and such things, for instance, such and such country went to war with this country and that, or there was, some civil uprising in a country, and then you can look at the causes. Well, this happened because of that, and that happened because of that, and so many different things. And that may be true. But then another underlying factor which society won't accept is, what about all the killing of the cows? What about all that? What about all the sinful reaction of killing all the animals in that country? Is that maybe a cause to the civil war and then why you killed so many millions of your people? Society, they won't accept that. But Shastra explains that, and that's the vision that's given by Shastra. And so many different things. And also, too, another understanding is that just the age of Kali. So the age of Kali is known by quarrel, and Prabhupada makes that point, that people will fight over land that's not even habitable. They'll kill thousands and thousands of people just for one little piece of land. And so even the nature of just the times is people are just willing to fight over just nothing. So the point is that we have to see through Shastra, and we have to have that understanding in order to not be bewildered about what's going on in society. And there'll be so many different things, and they may, we've gone to, anyways, just like we see also with Srila Prabhupada, for instance, just seeing through eyes with Shastra. When Srila Prabhupada was faced with the moon landing, he didn't accept that. And he said that they didn't go to the moon, or if they did go, they went somewhere else. Because we understand from Shastra that the moon is a heavenly planet. And that's mentioned there. And also the sun planet too. All these things are mentioned. And so many different things like that. Moon landing, we spoke some about war. Rain, why is rain happening? Okay, there may be some scientific understanding of rain. But we understand that rain comes from sacrifice. So we have to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, the books that we're reading, and we have to understand we have to hear Srila Prabhupada's lectures regularly and our own spiritual masters' lectures regularly in order to understand reality. Because we're not going to understand reality by reading scientific books and taking a history class and getting modern education. We have to understand from Shastra. And so that's the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam class, in order to come to these conclusions and not be bewildered. And also in seeing through Shastra, so that we see everything in connection to Krishna and see things in a Krishna conscious lens. And so in order to develop that vision, we have to hear regularly, we have to introspect, and we have to be willing to re-examine whatever ideas we may have or whatever we may have heard and see if they tally up with Shastra. There's so many different things like that and so many different understandings. But I'll stop there if there's any questions or comments about anything we've discussed.
Hare Krishna. I like the point about how for something to be accepted as truth in a science, it has to be rational and perceivable,
Yeah.
which I'm pretty sure is true. And I'm just wondering what is rational about this idea that everything can come just from, if you leave materials and some basic materials
Yeah.
in some place for some time, then by chance it can turn into fully autonomous machines that can function, defend, reproduce, think, and act. Planets with their own orbit, suns with like a precise measurement. All of this can
Yeah.
happen just by chance. You just leave some material somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, because they accept
Yeah.
this is supposed to be a rational
Yeah.
truth. I'm wondering how it's rational.
Yeah, well, they try to like explain it like in a rational way, but I would say one reason it's really rational to them is that because it's divorced from any spiritual cause. So therefore, it's like completely rational. That there's no God, God had nothing to do with that, and then there's no idea that like there's like intelligent like beings that are creating things or some overarching like spiritual figure. So therefore, it's like super intelligent. It's like very rational because for there to be God is irrational because there's no spirit. So I think the point is that most of these scientists, they have like, what is this? They have some like misconception already, and then they're just looking for something to solidify that. It's not really like trying to like understand things as they are. It's like, okay, I believe that this is true, so therefore like what kind of like lines up with that? And then they'll say the same thing about us. That you're just trying to like, oh, and that's important actually. Let me mention this quote from Bhagavad Gita. I forgot about this, but so Krishna mentions this in Bhagavad Gita actually. Let's read the English, but the foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, even though they may try to. So the point is that if one isn't endeavoring on that spiritual path, it doesn't matter. One just won't be able to have that vision or that knowledge or be able to understand it, even though they may try to. It's an interesting point. But this is new, actually. It wasn't like that previously. Like, for instance, just to make a quick point, and like previously in Greek and Roman history, they had like astronomy and stuff, or astrologers and stuff like that. So astrologer and astronomy is internally connected because like, anyways, the movements of the planets and all those different things, the directions and stuff, that as far as astrology goes, like that has a big role in like, whatever, in like one's life or like things going on in one's life or just it's a language. But anyways, previously in those societies, like if a country was going to go to war, then they would ask like an astrologer, like, hey, should we go to war? And the astrologer was like, no way. Then they wouldn't go to war. Or if they were like, go for it, you're going to win. And then there's so many different like divinations in different societies and stuff like that. Even with Julius Caesar that's mentioned in that play, that he was warned, like, beware, like, whatever, March 15th or the Ides of March. And so, was that just like some random day? But it's like people had like that, like, understanding. And so they had like, the people in those societies, they had faith in that. And then there's like things to back that up. But like nowadays, it's like whatever. It's like that's not a science. You can't prove it. But then so many societies previously, they were like engaged. They were using all those different tools and things like that. Like whatever. To decide to go to war, that's like a big thing. Based on astrology. Anyways. You had something? Okay. All right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srimad Bhagavatam ki.